Hi everybody! So this video is going to be all on my first trimester and my experience, finding out how I was pregnant and how I dealt with that. So if you guys haven't watched my first video, I said that in that video that I wasn't expecting to have a baby at this time in my life and that it was definitely a big surprise for me. It was a shock and a definitely big life-changing moment. So my experience may vary from the traditional woman who maybe have been planning to have a baby and it's just been a really joyful experience and like a very exciting experience and like, wow, I'm pregnant. I'm definitely overjoyed and this has been so very exciting, but at the very beginning it was definitely scary and hard. And so I want to be able to talk to you guys about my experience, as well as if any of you guys have been going through that and haven't had an unplanned pregnancy or are just kind of scared and don't know what to expect. I wanted to kind of tell you my experience, as well as give you some of my symptoms that I've gone through throughout my pregnancy. I know that some pregnancies are definitely vary. Not everybody gets the same symptoms, but there are so many symptoms that I didn't even know happened during pregnancy. And even though pregnancy is exciting and such a great thing, it can be very hard and sometimes you absolutely hate it because of the way you're feeling. And you didn't even know that this was a sign and symptom of pregnancy, and so it can be overwhelming, especially in your first trimester when you didn't expect this to happen and it just kind of is overtaking your body. So I wanted to be able to talk to you guys about that and go over some of my pregnancy symptoms and my experience with you. So if I look down on my phone, it's because I have if I look down, I'm on my phone, it's because I have some notes that I wrote down to talk about. So for my during my first trimester, I found out pretty early that I was pregnant. My period has always been really, really irregular. So I actually found out sooner than I thought that I would have probably have found out, even though it's still found out kind of in the later half of it. Most people are like, wow, I'm a week late, and then they start panicking. I was over a month late and still was like, well, I'm just stressed out because I've had such an irregular period and cycle before that I didn't think that much of it. I was going through a really stressful time. I was working full-time and going to school full-time and the process of moving all at the same time and just going through some emotional junk too. So it was hard and scary, and I just thought I was stressed out. To be honest with you, and being over a month late, that's happened to me before, so I just wasn't thinking that much of it. There are other symptoms that really kind of set it off for me. I know some people have only been like, yeah, I just was late and that's how I found out. For me, it was more of like going through random symptoms that I'd never had before. I was like, this is weird, I don't know why I'm having this. So first things first, I was really, really tired, like very fatigued. I just had the flu, and so I thought maybe that I had mono or something like that, or my body was just taking a really long time to recover. And I was so tired. I would go to work or go to school and come home and just pass out because I just couldn't do anything. I was so exhausted. I didn't want to go out on the weekends. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay in bed and sleep because I was exhausted. And I remember feeling kind of guilty about it because I wanted to be active and I wanted to be going out and I wanted to be hanging out with my friends, but I just had absolutely no energy. So I thought that I had mono, where I was just taking a really long time to recover, and I wasn't feeling any other symptom or any other illness or anything at the time. So I was like, guess I'm just really, really exhausted. And maybe just overstressed too. So I kind of pushed that one out of my mind, but then I started getting really bad acne. And for me, I've never had acne. I've never really struggled with acne. If I get any sort of acne type thing, it's normally around that time of the month, and it's if I haven't been very good about cleaning my skin and just taking good care of it, and it'll happen around this region, and they're just very, very tiny red bumps that aren't necessarily even pimples or poppable. I don't pop my anything, but they're very like tiny and kind of under the surface. But I was getting these terrible, giant, painful pimples along my jawline, and that was just very abnormal for me. I've never really broken out there, never had any sort of pimple like that, and I first thought it was products I was using, so I started taking things back that I just bought and been like, I must have been this, and they weren't going away. They were only coming back and getting bigger or spreading, and I just didn't know what was happening. I was getting so frustrated. I remember learning about different spots of your face where you get acne and what that's telling you. It could be your diet, could be your hormones, could be all these things, and I remember getting them on your chin was hormonal related sometimes, and I was thinking, that's so weird, I don't know why I would be having that. And at the time I was in school and we were learning about, because I majored in child education, early childhood education, child development, and psychology, a whole big matter of things, double majored, but we were learning about the reproductive system and kind of having babies and stuff like that at the time, and one of the early symptoms was having acne, and I just was like, that's so weird, I wonder if I'm pregnant. And it was a very offhand kind of thing, but I remember bringing it up to my best friend and her being like, you're not pregnant, like, you're not pregnant, there's no other thing, like, you're just a little late, probably stressed out, it's not a big deal. And for some reason I took that as like complete fact and was like, yeah, she's right, I'm not pregnant. So I didn't worry about it. But eventually my roommate was like, you need to take a pregnancy test just to make sure that you're not. It'll help you not be worried, it'll help everybody else not be worried. So I took a pregnancy test. Most people who probably are taking pregnancy tests are either freaking out with excitement or worry, or just like, I don't know if I'm pregnant or not, and kind of more on edge. For me, I was not worried at all. I just remember taking the test, putting a timer on, and on my phone on Pinterest, just waiting for the 4 minutes or whatever to end so I could just be like, oh, I'm not pregnant. It's probably just stress. It ended, the timer ended, I picked up a test, and then all the oxygen was sucked out of the room, and I felt like an outfit was on me. I just remember thinking like, I mean, it was the scariest moment of my life, I think. And just the biggest moment of my life, I think, too. Seeing that was like, just, I can't explain the feeling. If you've ever had that sort of feeling before, if you've ever gone through that, or just been so shocked by something that just is like, this is completely life-changing. From this moment on, my life will not be the same. No matter if the pregnancy, if I end up losing the pregnancy, or if I end up becoming a mom, like, from this moment on, I will always know that I have been pregnant, kind of thing. I remember just sitting in the bathroom for about 30 minutes, not making a sound, until my boyfriend and my roommate came in and were like, are you okay? What would the pregnancy test say? And I couldn't get the words out, so I slid them the test. And they were really shocked too, like, oh wow, oh wow. My roommate was like, I'm gonna go in and make sure, you know, this is a for sure thing. I'm gonna go get all these pregnancy tests and you're gonna take them and we'll just make sure, because this could be wrong. And I remember like, yeah, it could be wrong, right? And I took 7 and they weren't wrong. So I was pregnant, and my boyfriend's first words out of his mouth were, oh, you're pregnant. And that was it. And we didn't talk much for the rest of the night, and it was weird. And he kind of passed out because I think he was just so in shock that he's like, I'm just gonna go to sleep, I'm just gonna go to sleep. So he went to sleep. I cried for most of the night because it was so shocking. And I remember all I wanted to do was to call my mom and tell her, but it was late at night and I decided to wait till morning. And I promise you that is not the first feeling that I ever thought I would feel. I thought I would be someone who didn't want to tell my parents, even though I'm a grown adult. But in my head I was like, they're gonna be so disappointed. And just wanting not to tell them, but it was the first thing I wanted to do because I just thought she would make it better. and I wanted to tell her. I didn't want to keep that from them. So the next day is when I ended up going home and telling my mom and my whole rest of my family, but I did sit down with her first. And she was very supportive and very kind and very loving, and just was like, we're going to get through this, we're going to do this, you're pregnant? All right. And that was definitely hard. Being 22 at the time, it was scary, and when you are still in the mindset of a 22-year-old and living your life kind of day by day, just being like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing next year. I don't know where I'm going to be. I could be living in England, which was actually a plan. And just little things like that where you just kind of are being young and living your life that way and not really trying to make these big solid plans and do all these things. And Jazz and I just talked about moving in together, and we'd found an apartment and we were buying furniture, but that was as serious as we were getting at that time. We had definitely planned on getting engaged within the year, but it wasn't anything like having a kid. So it was definitely life-changing. It's definitely thinking like everything is going to change. My whole entire life is going to change. My the way I deal with my friends, the way I deal with my, you know, like schedule, my routine. I can't just be like flighty and be like, oh, I'm going to go out today and do this. Like, I want to have a child. And I've always wanted kids. I love kids. I've worked with kids for my whole entire life. So it wasn't that I was terrified of having a kid. It was more of just, I don't know if I'm ready to be a mom. And that was really scary. And that's probably been the biggest change for me personally, is just to overcome that, as well as deal with everybody around you who isn't in that same lifestyle. All of my friends, they aren't married, they don't have kids. Some of them are in very serious relationships. For the most part, are still being young and living their life like that. So it's been tough, it's been hard, and I'm proud to say though that I think it's been such a positive change and such a positive experience for me. I think that I've really grown up, and I'm now ready, I feel like. I know that once I actually have a baby, I'm going to be probably scared. And I'm scared right now, but I feel so much more prepared and excited for this. And honestly, I feel like for me, this is something that was just meant to happen. And here I am, pregnant, being a mom soon. So that was kind of my experience. Like I said, it has been hard with my friends and kind of social life, because they're not pregnant. They don't understand why you're tired, why you don't want to go out, why you don't, you know, like obviously trying to distance yourself from things and just grow up a bit. It's hard. And if you have baby on the brain all the time, they obviously don't have baby on the brain all the time. They're living their life being a 22, 23, 24-year-old, while I'm still being like, okay, baby, this is what we're going to do, and this is how my plans and birth plans and breastfeeding and all these things. It's like, okay, cool, let's talk about something else. It's hard. I also have had some experiences that haven't been good as well, which has been losing my job. I worked at a Christian preschool, and they found out that I was pregnant, or I told them I was pregnant. It wasn't like I was hiding it, but they wanted me to hide it. They wanted me to continue hiding it, or I would lose my job. And it was for the rest of the semester. I wasn't allowed to come back the next year. It was definitely just like, you can stay here if you pretty much lie to everybody and say that you are just sick, that you're not feeling well, that, you know, you can't pick up these things or things like that. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel right about that. I didn't want to feel ashamed about my pregnancy. Obviously, this isn't ideal, and I'm aware that in a Christian lifestyle, this isn't necessarily a positive thing, but I'm not going to make it a more negative thing by hiding it. And so I ended up being told I wasn't allowed to come back. So that was really difficult and really hard, and hurt really badly, because I needed support at the time, and I was scared, and I wasn't planning on being a mom, obviously, but I'm trying to be responsible about it, and it just felt like a slap in the face. So that was really difficult to kind of get over. And for those of you who don't know, Jazz, my boyfriend, he is from northern India. He was born in India. He's lived here his whole entire life, basically, but his mother is very traditional, And it's been a very negative experience with that. It's been very difficult and very hard, and it's hard especially because my family has been so supportive, which has been such a blessing for the both of us, but it's hard when you don't have that, being able to go home and being like, so how's the baby today, and being excited, and he doesn't get that. And I think that's been really difficult for him to kind of grasp, and I feel really sad about that, and I want Olive to feel like she has that family too, and be able to have that culture, and there's not much of that there, and not wanting to be involved. So that's been difficult for the both of us as well, especially for Jazz. But on a whole though, this has been such a positive experience, and I would not trade it for the world. I have been absolutely happy, and I cannot wait until we get to meet her and be parents. And it has only brought Jazz and I closer together, and only made us stronger, and to be like see each other in ways that we never thought we would see each other yet. And it's been really scary sometimes, but been the most rewarding experience. So I definitely wouldn't change it for the world, even with the negativity, even with like my life changing and his life changing. There was no way that I would change that. So I wanted to talk about my experience, and now I wanted to talk about kind of my symptoms. So like I said in the beginning, I was just feeling I was really tired and had my acne. I was also feeling really bloated and just kind of moody. That didn't seem that overwhelming or different from about to start my period though, so I just kind of like left it alone. Once I found out that I was actually pregnant, I was feeling very uncomfortable, very heavy, very just weird in my stomach. Food, I didn't want to eat a whole lot of food just because it felt kind of stuck. And I know that your digestive system slows down, and so that was kind of, I think, a big thing in the beginning for me. I was having a really hard time just eating because I just felt weird and different. I also thought that I was avoiding nausea because I thought that I was farther along than I was. I thought I was 2 weeks ahead of where I actually was, just because I couldn't pinpoint my ovulation because my period was so crazy, and cycle was so crazy, so I went off kind of a traditional chart. However, I wasn't regular, so it wasn't right. I was 2 weeks behind of where I thought I was. So I thought I had avoided nausea because I was getting really, and morning sickness, I was getting really close to my second trimester, but I was actually not. So it hit me full force, and it was terrible. And I just remember like standing, feeling sick, and wanting to go sit down all the time. Like I couldn't be on my feet for very long. That was, I hated it. I hate feeling nauseous. It's one of the worst feelings in the world to me. So feeling nauseous day in and day out, and really not being able to do much about it was terrible. Eventually my nausea kind of subsided, but I had what I thought felt worse. And that was, and this is the best way to describe it, it felt like food was not something I needed. It felt like I was a vampire, and that like I was an undead being. And all of everything in my body though was frozen, all my organs, all those things. And I just felt like food just, I wasn't right for me anymore. It didn't feel like that was what I was supposed to be doing. It didn't feel like it was like good substance. I would eat, put it in my mouth, and it just felt wrong. I would swallow it, it hurt. It was the weirdest symptom that I never thought would happen either. I ended up losing a big chunk of weight because of it too, because I was so like it was so painful for me to eat almost. That's the best way to describe it. So uncomfortable, so painful too. And so I ended up losing a big chunk of weight, and I would have to force myself to eat something. I just remember crying because I was in so much discomfort. And I hated the thought of not being able to enjoy food because I knew food was so good and I wanted to enjoy it, and I wasn't, and it was just terrible. It was such a terrible time. I hated it. So if you're going through that, I'm so sorry, and eventually it does get better. I know that that's a symptom that not everybody has, and it's really random, but if you are feeling that way, it does get better. My best advice for you on that is if you ever do feel hungry, like for some random reason I would feel hungry in the middle of the night, so I'd always have something to eat by my bed, like a bar, some crackers, some fruit, something that I could eat, because that was the only time that I really was eating. So I do recommend that. Don't let that time pass you by, because then you'll end up feeling sick again. And if there is one thing that you can eat, then eat it. The one thing I really could eat was fruit. That's all I craved was fruit. I just wanted sweets, especially fruit, and that was the one thing that I could get down and didn't make me feel gross. So I was eating a lot of fruit. I did have really strong sweet cravings, like cake and donuts. Donuts still. Donuts. And just like baked pretzels, things that were like doughy and delicious is all I wanted to eat. Which is weird for me because I'm a big salty person, savory person. I do enjoy sweets, but it wasn't like I just wanted chocolate all the time. I wanted donuts all the time. I wanted fruit all the time. I just wanted sweets, and it was weird. It's such a weird thing to feel like you completely change your mind on things like that. You knew, like, before you're like, something I really want, but now you're like, oh, I just can't get enough. Other things. Turn-offs for me were just really strong smells of any kind. Foods, if I was cooking something or somebody was cooking around me, I had a really hard time. I feel like I could taste the smell. And I know that sounds weird, but like taste, like if anything felt like it was frying or being burned or something like that, like I just hated it. I hated the smell. I felt like I could taste it on the food. I just, ugh. Meat, I had a really hard time eating meat. For some reason, I just had a hard time digesting it, so it made me feel really uncomfortable too, and I just, oh, meat was not good. Deodorant. For some reason, deodorant and skin, the smell of skin really made me nauseous. There was one deodorant I was using at the beginning of my pregnancy that now I smell it and I just want to, ugh, it's so nauseating to me and so gross. And random smells too, like hand sanitizer, scented hand sanitizers really bug me. Potpourri, like strong smelling things, I cannot do. Still, then and now. And my last big thing that I wanted to talk about was anxiety. That was something that I did not expect, and something that has like really been a struggle for me. I've on and off had anxiety through my life. Like I really don't like confrontation. I don't like things like that, so I'll get anxiety about it. But I have never been someone who has been overly anxious a lot or been constantly obsessing about something or just constantly feeling anxiety or worried or stressed. And when I first found out that I was pregnant, it was really joyful and exciting, and then I started getting really bad worries and anxiety and just thinking like, oh, this pregnancy is gonna end, I'm gonna have a miscarriage, something terrible is gonna happen, I'm gonna get attached, and then it's just gonna end. And I don't know if that's very common during pregnancy. I'm pretty sure it is, but it was very weird for me because I just didn't expect to feel that way. Being able to, it's like I was out of control and I could not calm myself down. I was just so convinced, like 100% convinced that this baby was I was gonna have a miscarriage and she wasn't going to continue growing. And each week felt like such a triumph when I got to that next week, because it was like she was still in there, she's still growing, she's still living. And I mean, I still struggle with that, but definitely not as much as in the beginning. And it just was so difficult and so scary and such a weird feeling, because you feel you have absolutely no control of what's going on in there, besides obviously being healthy and taking your prenatals and things like that. It's so debilitating and I hated it. So I definitely recommend never going on the internet. If you have a symptom that you are worried about, call your doctor or call like your labor and delivery unit in the hospital, because it is the worst feeling to feel that way and then go on the internet and have everybody who's had bad experiences post something, and then you're like completely now like 200% convinced that that's gonna happen to you. The internet was the worst thing that I could have done, and I I most definitely recommend you not going on the internet. So if you are feeling nervous and anxious about something, call your doctor or go to the hospital, because it's just not worth it to go on that site and look at all these terrible experiences and all these terrible things that happen and can happen, and convince yourself that that's what's going to happen. You're going to be that 1 in 100 that loses this or has this happen or has a deformity or something like that. It's just not worth it, because more people post the negative than they're posting the positive, because people want to share their experiences, and if they've had a negative experience, they want to help warn others out there about their negative experience. And the people who haven't had that negative experience probably didn't go on the internet, or probably just like, yeah, everything's good. So stay off the internet. It's not worth it. It's not worth the anxiety. And that is my best advice for you on that if you're going through it. And just think that every day your baby is growing. Odds are you're going to have a healthy, beautiful baby, and your pregnancy will be okay. Because people have been doing this forever. Women are made to have babies, so it's okay to feel anxious and worried, but try not to let it debilitate you. Try not to overconsume you. Distract yourself with television, books, friends, family. If you, with your job, just be distracted. Like, allow yourself to have that time, because otherwise you'll be obsessive. And that's how it was for me. So I would distract myself. I would reassure myself consistently. If you are religious, prayer definitely helps. Just like trying to give your worry up and not worry. Just be like, I have no control. Just gonna forget about it. And stay off the internet. And talk to your doctor and say, I talk to my doctor just about anxiety too, and knowing now that it is so common and that it's kind of just your hormones going crazy. So, which is kind of nice to know that that's pretty common. So that was my first trimester experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that I was able to help you in some way, or if you guys are going through the same thing, it's reassuring maybe. My next video is going to be on my first trimester must-have products, which I'm very excited for, because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this enough. And it's kind of difficult to get through some of these trimesters and figure out what to do. So, and what to use, what not to use, what things help, what don't things help. So I'm going to make that video very soon. I hope you enjoyed this one. And stay tuned for the upcoming videos. I'm also having my baby shower pretty soon, so there should be a fun, exciting vlog of that. And if you've heard a dog snoring this whole entire time, it is my lovable bug, Frank. And I'm sorry, he's a snorer. But I think that's all I wanted to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this, like I said, and look forward to my next videos. Please comment and subscribe. That would mean so much to me. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.